Alright, what's going on, everybody? Long time no see. So, as many of y'all know, the Mercedes W12 did release on iRacing for the new build. I was out of town at the time that it released, so I was only able to do a couple little short test runs with it with my G29, so it was kind of hard to really gauge anything about the car. So, I'm going to be doing a few laps here just to see what it's actually like now that I'm back in my rig and everything. And of course, as many also know, that there is a limitation on custom liveries, so that's why the car looks the way it does. And yes, I'm being petty and put a Red Bull-ish look to it. Probably won't keep it that way though. But lock deliveries aside, the car does look pretty cool. I'm not going to go all the way around because I'll hit the garage. But yeah, that's what we're looking at there. So I'm going to get in the car. I was kind of messing around with the garage a little bit as well, so there's a little bit of a difference in the setup there, but it's basically the Silverstone setup with a few minor tweaks, and also the halo bar, because I opted to have the halo bar taken off. People thought I was crazy for saying this, but at first listen, the interior sounds kind of reminded me a bit of the Indy car. Just a little bit higher pitched, I think, just because of the higher, I think it revs higher. But, I mean, other than that, it's not a gripe. The Indy car sounds cool. But that also could have been the garbage laptop speakers I was using the other day. So we'll see. Make some small changes here. Weird. Looking at a couple of different things, just seeing what it does.
Pit lane speed limit is 50 miles per hour. Disengage limiter.
Ow. I have no idea what a fast lap is. I know I've seen that some guys have run 125, 126, but I don't know if those are race laps or qualifying laps. I can't remember what they actually ran here. Conditions have a lot to do with that sort of stuff too. Yeah, probably going to be a little bit slow because I've not really driven this car much. I know from my hotel room over the last week, a little bit of driving that I did do, I was way off, so So they reworked DRS. Instead of being the target stated charge thing that they did with the McLaren, it still works off of that. But rather than like one change per lap, you know, at the start finish line. To do to make this thing handle the way I want it to. But it takes you have attack, balanced, and build, and then in qualifying you have like no deploy and qual. Pretty self-explanatory. Attack does more boost, less harvest. Balance does the you know, balanced is obviously a balanced approach to management, and then build does more harvesting, less deploying. Probably overslowing that corner, not arcing it right. Anyway, it's harder to see because of the mirrors. I'm used to them being up on those stalks way up top. Not out to the sides like that. But anyway. So the thing with balanced is, you know, you have to work to kind of try to figure out, like, well, not just balance, but the thing with the ERS system is apparently it takes a few laps to build the boost map. Or too much. This is more entirely. But it takes a few laps to build its boost map, so it drives kind of strange for a couple laps, and then eventually it kind of, I think the ERS deployment kind of evens out, figures out where it wants, you know, where it needs to deploy. That particular point.
You've just done 30.0. You're now 1.4 seconds slower than your best.
plow box. But because they did add back so many adjustments for the in-car, I'm gonna have to figure out how to definitely have to get a Formula wheel now.
All right, Adam, towards the track limits. Need to slow down, give back some time.
Oh, and with the ERS, you can only change modes four times a lap, but they take effect immediately rather than at the start-finish line. So
Track limits, there's like a way to liters.
whoops.
You need to give back the time gained.
Alright, so
31.1. We're now 5 seconds. Slower than your best.
I'm gonna do like a build lap. Lost the rear a bit there.
Watch the track limits, please, Adam.
how much that affects. I feel like that off track is. Alright, well, if you want to know how bad I suck, it's in attack mode and I'm still losing time.
Are you alright, mate?
So there you go. Now you get to see the new damage model, which is another feature of this car.
Answer me if you can, please, Adam.
$51G. So yeah. Obviously, I got some work to do and got some tinkering and playing around it to do. I don't quite understand why, no matter what I did, I just kept getting slower and slower and slower and slower and slower and slower. It was very NASCAR-y in that realm, and the tire didn't look that bad, but you know, and I say NASCAR-y as compared to the McLaren, where much like real F1, the more fuel burns off, the faster you go. This car didn't seem to be doing that, so so yeah, I guess you could say this is pretty much my initial reaction to the car, since the first time I drove it wasn't on the equipment I will normally be driving it on. So I don't know how I feel about it yet. It's cool that, you know, we got it, you know, that it's you know, we've been asking for a new Formula One car for the longest time, and I mean, I don't think we ever thought it would happen, because teams are always so secretive with their data, that to not only get a modern Formula One car, but to get, you know, what's probably the fastest, or one of the fastest and most dominant Formula One cars, and with as much detail as was put into it, you know, I don't think that was anything anybody ever expected. So from that aspect of it, yeah, I mean, it is pretty cool. Obviously, the shitty part is that, you know, we can't make it look how we want. And I get there's legal reasons why iRacing won't allow it, and I get that, you know, Mercedes have the right to make the car look like theirs or however they want it, and probably don't want people putting Red Bull paints on it. But I still think, I mean, that doesn't, just because I understand the why doesn't make it suck any less. So obviously, but I mean, this is a situation that we have, so we're just gonna have to deal with it until either you know, iRacing and Mercedes can come to some sort of an agreement to allow it, or we'll just have to deal with it, you know, for as long as this car is on the service. You know, obviously, if they're pulling this with the W12, then they're definitely not going to let us do up the 2022 car after we want. So pretty much our only hope for a Formula One series with our own custom appearances is going to have to be if they ever decide to fix the IR01. Which, now that we've gone 2 builds without that card receiving any sort of a physics update, a significant physics update, I think they forgot that card existed, like most everybody else on the service. But yeah, I mean, as far as how it drives, I don't know. I'll have to, like I said, I'll have to play with it more. I have to drive it more to kind of see how I feel about it. I feel like it's kind of hard to give a good review of that, just because I've driven the McLaren so much and for so long that I've gotten used to it. And to me, that car felt great. So it's going to be kind of hard in my mind to make a car that was better. But I think on paper, this car is better in every way. But, you know, in terms of feel, you know, we'll see. It's very twitchy. It's very, it's obviously got a ton of downforce, so it's, you know, I've got to learn how to brake a certain way. You know, the braking's a lot different. The setups are way different. They're way more limited on what we can change. I guess in the past, iRacing has allowed for so many adjustments. This isn't coming from them, this is just my guess, but that in the past with other cars, we were given so many adjustments to play with because that was what you could adjust on the car, period. But with this car, iRacing seems to have gone the route of only adding what you can adjust on a race weekend, since that's technically what we're simulating. So the front page doesn't look very different. You still choose tire compound, we still have the ride height calculator, downforce trim, still low, medium, high. The biggest things that changed was the front flap. They changed it from, I think they had different wording for it, and instead of degrees and positive and negative numbers, we had holes, and you would just choose whichever hole between like 1 and 15 or something like that. So that changed. I gotta figure out how to understand that bit. So, like negative and positive relative to what? Now, one thing you did notice while I was driving is that this car and now the Indy car have the transparent halo option, where if you check this box, it will make the halo center column transparent. Probably not it's like a pretty light translucent, I guess. You know, you can still see it. It's there, but you can see through it. You know, it's not solid like it was on the Indy car for the longest time. Some people are really mad about that. I don't really care. I think the way iRacing did it's a good way to go about it. I think having it being transparent or translucent is better in my opinion and more realistic, as opposed to just completely getting rid of it like in the F1 games. So if they were going to do it, they did it in a way that I feel like was the right way. They can have sorry, I had a yawn there. The way they did it was the right way, where it's basically, people are mad because that's not what it looks like in real life. Well, in real life, we have binocular vision, and we can see past the halo in real life, just like you can see past your own nose. Your brain learns to ignore it. Well, in VR, drivers can also, they have that same effect. They don't see the halo. They don't necessarily see the halo because they can kind of look around it, and if they look straight ahead and past it, then it like just kind of disappears into their vision like your nose does. But people on screens, such as myself, we didn't. There was just this giant bar sitting in the middle of our screen. Now, the times I've driven the Indy car, it hasn't bothered me. At first, it's like, oh man, there's this big thing in my way. But you know, after a while, my brain learned to ignore it, and yeah, it was still there, and yeah, it kind of blocks your vision a little bit. But if you looked where you're supposed to be looking, like ahead into the next corner, the halo bar really wasn't a big deal for me, at least. I think the people who suffered the most are probably people that are in a situation where they have a really small monitor that's a long ways away from them, or they're like on a laptop where no matter how close you put the monitor for the laptop, you're always going to have like a 45-degree field of view. It's this giant bar in your face and you can't see anything. So being able to turn that transparent is a way of making it realistic for us. When I say us, I mean those of us on screens. But anyway, back to the setup. As you can see, there used to be quite a few changes available here. I think most of them are actually technically still here. But you can't really change the spring, I guess. And I don't know if the roll rate in this is changing the ARB or the springs, or both at the same time, or what have you. The way it's worded, yeah, it could be either one. I'm thinking it's ARB just by looking at the numbers, but I don't really know. Weight distribution, I think, has always been there. We can adjust ride height directly rather than adjusting perch offsets and stuff like that. Yeah, and then between these two, the chassis and drive brake, there was a shocks tab or suspension tab or something. There was something in between on the McLaren and the Williams where you could adjust each, like the high and low speed shock package or what have you. Apparently Mercedes doesn't do that during the weekend, so this is all we get for chassis adjustments. And then the drive brake screen, I think, also got narrowed up a bit. So now the differential is a lot more simplified. You know, before it was like, you know, preload, entry, middle, exit, and then something else. And then on the other side we had the preset, which was like 2 and 2 for like entry and middle, or preload and entry, or whatever it is. And it was always set by default, I think, to like 2-2. But that was the preset in the car. So what you see here matches the setting in the car. Power unit, they changed to where the deploy mode is no longer based on that 75, 50, 25% SOC thing. Still based on state of charge, but instead, like I said earlier, instead of being only able to change it once a lap and only taking effect as you cross the start finish line, and then taking a couple laps to sort itself out, we now have no deploy qual for qualifying, which no deploy is pretty self-explanatory. Qual is it dumps the entire battery. Essentially, it's in overtake mode. Attack is basically the old 25% SOC and dumps as much battery as possible. Build is the complete opposite. Build as much battery as possible to get to 100%. And then you have balanced, which tries to keep the harvest and deployment somewhere around 80%, I think is what I saw. So I don't really know why they call that balanced. I would think balanced would be somewhere between like 50 and 60%, but whatever. And then the brake system is completely different. No more pressure changes. Um, brake bias goes to a minimum of 54%. Ramping is still there. Brake migration is different from the peak. It's the same thing, I think, as the peak brake bias setting, where you could click one way or the other and it would change the total bias. So, and then we get the brake magic modifier, which I don't have enough buttons on my steering wheel to deal with. But basically the idea is that it's supposed to get the brakes up to their ideal temperature on an out lap, so that you can do a push lap with ideal brake and higher temperatures, I guess. This is the famous setting that Lewis Hamilton forgot to disengage at Baku and led to him sliding out of the lead down to 15th place in the first corner. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And then, hey, you get to see the new damage model again. So yeah, that pretty much wraps it up as far as my little test run here goes. So I will continue to play with the car a bit, try to get as much driving done as I can before the season starts. Hopefully I can find some pace. I think the 128.5 is decent, and I may be running in hotter conditions than some of the others I've seen. Track temp is like 93 Fahrenheit, so I mean it could be colder track temps. I've seen that apparently some guys are in the 125, 120. I've seen some that were in like the 125, 126 range. So if that's going to be the norm, I got some work to do. But hopefully, just the fact that it was so hot on the track, maybe that's got something to do with it. So, but I'm not too terribly worried about lap times right now. I want to get the feel down first. Kind of get used to the car and how far you can push it. I feel like with the McLaren, I could really feel the edge of it a lot better. This car is a lot harder to discern that with. The steering in my AccuForce feels kind of strange, so I gotta figure something out. How to get that situated. But otherwise, yeah, I mean it's definitely a nice car. It's nice that we were able to get an updated Formula One car from one of the top teams in the sport. So see how things go with the Grand Prix series as it stands now. Now that they've got a fixed series that's a sprint length, and then the open series has been reduced in length to 40. It's basically a 45-minute race, but I think it's like 50% distance or something like that. And then sometime next year, we get a full distance NASCAR iRacing series style Formula One series that will follow the real world Formula One series to as many tracks as we have on the service. So somehow we're expected to have enough participation to have 3 healthy Formula One series. We shall see. But yeah, so this will be my car of choice for the next little bit, and we'll see just how things go. So anyway, appreciate y'all for tuning in. Project Alien episodes should be starting back up. quote unquote soon. So be on the lookout for that. Alright, thanks. We'll see y'all later.